And we're live. Good morning. This is Attorney Vincent Davis, and this is The Secret, How to Fight CPS and Win. And this is our Saturday morning, 9 a.m. edition. Thank you for all joining and watching. I am with two very special guests, Charlotte, and I don't want to mispronounce that last name. It's Garlinger.
Yes.
Okay, Charlotte. Thank you for being on this morning. And I have Ben Winger. Ben, thank you for being on this morning.
Thank you.
Now, I just talked to you briefly before we started the show, but I'm going to let you guys tell your story. First of all, it's my understanding that you both, you're not related in any type of CPS case, right? And that you both have a connection because you found each other through a social media group regarding cases in Yolo County. Is that accurate?
Yeah, NorCal. So it's for all of Northern California. But
okay.
Yeah.
But coincidentally, you both have cases in Yolo.
Yes.
Okay. So I don't know if you know this, but I've done cases in Yolo County. And I think we actually have one case there now, I think. But I have not had good experiences in Yolo County. The very first case I ever did in Yolo County, the social worker lied in a detention report to get what she wanted, and that was the detention of the kids. And the reason why I say lied, because I wasn't there, I wouldn't know otherwise, but she quoted one of the children saying the child said XYZ. Years go by and the children are placed with relatives and basically, have frequent visitation with the parents. And the child, who is now older, made it a point during a Zoom call to tell me that she never said that. As a matter of fact, the social worker asked her the question, and allegedly she told the social worker ABC. And of course, the social worker's report says XYZ. And without that comment, there is no way, in my personal opinion, that the court could have made orders detaining those children from the parents. And it's interesting because years later, the kids' lives have been basically turned upside down from removing the children from the parents. And there was no physical or sexual abuse by either parent against any of the children. This was all supposed quote unquote risk to the children that were perceived or made up by CPS. So, Charlotte, since you're the woman, why don't you go first and tell us your story, and then Ben will go with you. Okay.
So my case started March 5th of 2021. That's when my children were removed from my home in Yolo County. I had 4 children at the time, and they were all based on allegations from the month prior that the daycare had reported that my son's father had choked him. My son had this reoccurring issue with PTSD from the same allegation that had happened in August of 2019, where the case in Yolo County was ultimately dropped due to lack of evidence. So my son had been saying the same thing since 2019. I had him in therapy. So I had a social worker come to my home a few days before that and interview me. It was the only time I didn't have family, or I usually had family or a friend be there while they were interviewing me, because I don't trust Yolo County. They twist and turn your words, and they're not held accountable. And so the social worker came to my house and, asked me if my son was acting inappropriately, I should spank him in front of him, had proceeded to tell me that my daughter was biracial and that I couldn't take care of her hair and that I should get a book to learn how to do that, and just really insulted me and my family. And a few days later, they came and removed my children based on the allegations of neglect and physical abuse. They said they had interviewed my children at school days before, and that my 2 older children reported that I leave them at home alone, that I neglect them, that they don't have food, they don't have adequate anything, when the social worker was just at my home and saw everything. Dad and I were not together, and so pitted us. Yolo County has a great way of pitting families and pitting co-parents against each other, which probably most counties do. So I went through my case plan, went through my process. Ultimately, detention report was completely fraudulent. My children were taken to a home, which Yolo County has a history of doing. They send kids out of county. More kids are placed out of county than in county. My kids were placed in Jackson. I live in Davis, California, which is right outside of Sacramento. Probably about 10 or 12 minutes or so. My kids were placed in Jackson. They were completely removed from school. Family wasn't considered anything. So they were removed, went to Jackson, where the home was abusing my 7-year-old. And I reported it. And after I made reports for 2 months, they finally moved them with a family member in Yuba City.
I think we might have lost Charlotte. Charlotte, you froze up. Charlotte? Hey, Ben, we might have to transition to you.
All right.
Okay, I'll give you the floor.
All right. So my story starts
wait
with.
A minute. Charlotte, are you back? Charlotte, can you hear me? Charlotte, can you hear me? Ben, don't you love technology?
I actually do.
Charlotte, say something. Charlotte? Okay, Charlotte, if you hear me, I'm going to have to go to Ben because I can't hear you. And I noticed on the live stream, you're not muted. Oh, I just lost Ben. What a great morning this is turning out to be. Can't hear you. Good morning, Deidre. Good morning, Chime Girl. Jen, absolute good morning. Charlotte, I can see you, but I cannot hear you. And you're not muted on the live stream, so that means something's going on with your phone or your camera or something. Hey, Ben, we lost you too.
Yeah. So we got the storm going on right now. So, yeah.
Okay, so what I'm going to do, Ben, I'm going to give you the floor.
Mhm.
And why don't you tell me what's going on with you in Yolo County?
All right. So, my case starts before CPS involvement because the mother of my daughter developed postpartum psychosis, and for people that don't know what that is, that's like it's like developing temporary schizophrenia because of giving birth. And it's similar to postpartum depression, but much more severe. So the mother was daughter's life in and out of the hospital, not being able to even understand basic concepts. Sorry, my cat's trying to give me love. And not even understanding basic concepts like money or time. Like, and so she needed to be in there. And CPS was informed about that during her last hospitalization before she recovered, where she just didn't know where my daughter was. And so they sent out an emergency worker to know where she was. My grandmother was helping me at the time by, giving me a little break by having my daughter sleep at her house. And that's how CPS became involved into our lives. They then sent an investigator out to talk to us, and I had no understanding of anything or what a safety plan was. I didn't know that it was supposed to be cooperative. They just said Caroline cannot come home until we decide, or until we say so. And they send me the paper, the safety planning paper, which is like a 5x3 like rectangular document where it doesn't actually say what it is besides just safety planning up the top. So I thought it was like a sign-in sheet, so I signed it. Following that, they started, they wouldn't talk about services that like could be provided. It was just Caroline can't come home. Oh, sorry, that was an accident. The mother could not come home. And she recovered, and we had mental health team involved that was saying that like, oh, she's good, and the agency did not listen to them. It was 3 months of mother being kept out of the home before I just decided to bring her home, and it was costing us $1,000 to pay for a room and board somewhere else. So I brought her home, and that's when I got allegations against me. And it was just that I brought mother home. And then fast forward, we get put through their services, very generalized, not specific to what we were dealing with. They misconstrue stuff. I can't think of anything off the top of my head right now. But going to the reunification, they had gotten the idea that our medications made us not capable of waking up, which I had talked to the prescribing physician about that concern, and they said that it was not an issue. But they forced us, and I told the agency that, but they forced us into overnight supervision, and we did, and we were doing that until one night we didn't wake up immediately. It is unclear exactly how long it was, but it could be as little as 5 to 20 minutes. There's just no evidence of that, and the person that was supervising it was the foster parent. So, conflict of interest. And then they basically stopped reunifications or any advancement in reunification services there, petitioned to terminate reunification services. And the judge agreed because the mother was starting to feel suicidal because she was feeling hopeless. And she sought help. And this is the same services that CPS told us to engage in, to reach out to. And her psychiatrist told her to go to the hospital. And that's the sole reason for her that reunification failed. And for me, it was that I was not a leader. And then the agency just stopped all contact between the reunification hearing and a TPR hearing, which, yeah, and that's kind of the story. And so it ended up in guardianship thanks to the is it sorry the in regarding Cadence C ruling, where we were able to where we were able to prove by beneficial parent that we had a beneficial relationship by clear and convincing evidence.
Wait a minute.
And
Cadence C was your case?
No, it was not my case.
Oh, okay. But it was case like yours was like Cadence.
It was cited in my case.
Well, did you have to appeal that, or did the trial judge rule that Cadence C applied and he or she should not terminate your parental rights?
Yeah, they ruled themselves that it applied, and no, it didn't need to be appealed. He was actually he seems really like enthusiastic about that ruling.
Who has the child?
My grandmothers.
Okay, and you get along with your grandmother?
I don't think I should answer that.
Okay, all
publicly.
Right. Now that they have legal guardianship of your child, did you know that you can file something to try to get them back or to expand visitation?
Yes, I'm working on that right now, actually.
Okay, very good, very good. You doing it by way of 388 petition?
Yes, and and the new evidence one.
Mm-hmm. Tell me, how old are the children?
There's just one, and she's 2.5.
Oh, okay, so young, very young.
Yeah, because we got involved because of a postpartum condition, so CPS got involved very early.
Do you think that anything unfair was done in your case where your rights were somehow violated?
Yeah, I think that the judge's ruling at the reunification hearing that it is inconsistent with compelled speech doctrine, because he gave 3 rationale for the why I wasn't a leader, and it was that I left a CFT early, and that I didn't tell the agency or my grandmothers about the hospitalization of mother.
Did you appeal that decision?
Yes.
And you lost?
It was this. So I didn't raise that issue because it's an issue that I see with the ruling itself. So it wasn't on record, and they dismissed it with a very general. I don't remember the exact case, but they just dismissed it with one line of case law that they just don't have to appeal. That you don't have a right to an appeal. That's basically what it came down to.
Yeah, Ben, you don't have a right to an appeal. What you have a right to do is file what they call a notice of intent to file a writ under a whole different California rule of court. Did you or your attorney file the notice of intent to file a writ?
I don't understand what that means, to be honest.
All right, so let me try to explain it, because this is a concept that comes up all the time and a lot of people are confused in California, and it may or may not be relevant to cases in other jurisdictions. Whenever a judge makes a decision in a CPS court, you can seek appellate review. It is your right. Here is the problem. You have 2 different types of appellate review. One is an appeal. The other one is a writ. Now, you say to yourself, well, what's the difference? The difference is the rule you actually use to knock on the door of the appellate court to get in. So even if you have the right to appellate review and you knock on the wrong door, you're going to lose. It's strictly a procedural thing. Okay? Now, when the judge terminated your family reunification services, you should have been knocking on the door of appellate review for what they call a special writ. Okay? And in order to file that special writ, you have to file what's called a notice of intent to file a writ. And then a lot of things start happening. So what happens sometimes is that people file the notice of appeal when they should have been filing the notice of intent to file writ. And if you file the notice of appeal in this particular case, you're knocking on the door. They're not going to let you in. You went to the wrong door. You went to the wrong address. Okay? Even though you have the right to appellate review. Now, I always wondered why the law was so strict on this issue, especially in these types of cases. I've never come up with an answer. It is strict, and those are the rules you have to abide by. Now, let's back up for a second. Did you file the notice of appeal or notice of intent to file a writ?
That was something that was handled on the back end through a public defender.
Okay. So what I would do, from what you've told me, and I haven't reviewed the file or anything, from what you've told me, you actually filed a notice of appeal when it should have been a notice of intent to file a writ. Now, if I were you, I would look in the file, all right, and figure out which one was filed, and then give me a call. Okay? Because if the public defender filed the wrong thing, that's a big deal. Now, I don't know anything about your case. Okay? But from what you've told me, the ruling by the court, in my humble opinion, and I'm just one guy, doesn't make sense and may not have been upheld on appellate review. Your problem is you might have knocked on the wrong door, right? So when it comes to parents, I mean, I find, in my opinion, the courts have been very strict with what a parent has to do to win. The social workers, not so much. You know, they're in the business of protecting children, so we're going to let them slide on all of these rules. That's the feeling I get. Others may disagree with me, but that's my feeling. And I'm just one guy. So that's what I think you should do. So there's a couple things that I think you need to do. You need to get that 388 filed. Now, let me back up. That's easily said. But to file a 388 that you're going to win on, eventually win on, and even get a hearing, because there's a two-step process, right? And they do this in Yolo County. You get to have a hearing to decide if they're going to give you a 388 hearing. So let me say that again. You file the 388, then they give you a hearing to decide if you should have a full 388 hearing. Now, in a case in Yolo where I filed a 388, the judge ruled, we had a hearing. The judge ruled I wasn't entitled to have a 388 hearing. Right? Interesting, isn't it? So those are the procedural hoops you have to jump over to get to your final goal of getting your child back. Just procedural hoops. Okay? Now, I'm telling you my opinion. There's going to be, 1,001 other lawyers, especially prosecutors, who are going to tell you Davis is full of shit. He doesn't know what he's talking about. The law is like that. It's all gray. There's no black and white. It's all gray. It's what evidence I can muster up and produce, what the judge will believe or not believe. That's what determines these cases. I talk to a lot of people, and I realized this a few years ago. When I tell you file a 388, that doesn't mean, number one, that you just check boxes and fill out a form.
It also means offer of proof, right?
Right, with evidence. So you have to have that to file your 388. Then, in order to get to what you want, you have to be able to win at trial. People just think, oh, I'll file a 388 and bang, I won. That's not true. There's two important steps. You got to do the 388 the right way. And number two, you got to win the hearing. You could file the 388 the right way and lose at the time of the final hearing. You're back at square one. So, when people tell me, yeah, I'm working on that 388, and I kind of think, oh, they're doing this by themselves, right? Without experienced attorney helping them, you might as well give yourself open heart surgery. Because I would bet $1 you don't know anything about that. I use this example almost daily now. My car mechanic told me you need a new transmission. Guess what I didn't do? I didn't run down to Pet Boys and buy the book, the Chilton Auto Book, on 2014 BMWs. I didn't buy the new transmission. I didn't buy the supplies or the tools I needed to change the transmission. You know why? Because although I'm a pretty smart guy, I know nothing about transmissions. Can you imagine me in my garage trying to change my transmission? Do you know what a disaster that would be? But everybody thinks, oh yeah, I can do that 388 on my own. I don't need any help. The law is fair and reasonable. By the way, do you think the law is fair and reasonable?
No, I'm actually working on a legislative change too. So
wow, I love that. If at any time you would like to discuss that, I'd be very interested in it, because legislative change and voting is the only way to try to change these cases. The only way. Now, I'm going to tell you a little secret. The legislative change you make or suggest better not interfere with the federal regulations from the Department of Health and Human Services. Because if they do, your legislation will never be approved. I don't know how often you watch this channel, but I've told this story a few times. Many years ago, a very famous judge in Los Angeles tried to get a legislative change. And that was, I hope I'm stating this right, the ability of the press and the public to have access to juvenile dependency hearings. Because if you don't have access, press have access, what you basically have is a star chamber where judges make decisions that nobody knows about. That's one of the reasons why people left England and founded, a new country in America. Star chambers. Okay? Well, it was going to be approved, legislation was drafted, and they just wanted to, they're doing their checks, and they mention it to the feds, and the feds said, oh, that's a great idea. But you know what? It violates our regulations. Therefore, you will not be receiving any federal money if that becomes the law in California. No federal money? Guess what happened to that law, Ben?
It got cut
right into the trash can. Okay? And CPS cases to this day are still private, confidential hearings. The press doesn't know anything about them. And, I hear this all the time. I have never personally experienced this, but people that try to make what's happening in their case public, which I think to a certain extent they do, they're retaliated against.
Yeah.
I've actually seen court orders by judges, gag orders against a parent from talking about a case, even though they're not mentioning any names. It's confidential. Now, do I think that should be the law? No. But guess what? I'm not a state legislator. I'm not an appellate judge. I don't make the law. But make sure that whatever you're proposing doesn't run afoul of the federal regulations. So, the problem is it's like a two-step problem. You got a state problem of passing the law. Then you got a federal problem, which is totally different, that it doesn't violate the federal regulations, because if it does, California or your states are going to lose their money. And that ain't ever happening, Ben. I'm sorry to tell you.
It's about the money.
Isn't it always?
Yeah.
Isn't it always? Just turn on the news. Turn on the news. You will rarely see a CPS story on the news, but all the other cases, it's about the money, Ben. Fortunately or unfortunately, that's the system we have, and that's the country we live in. So I don't think you should complain. What I think you should do is figure out how you can make that change. And then when you figure it out, they'll have to deal with you. You'll become a very popular guy in Sacramento. Hey, you know what? When I drive to when I fly to Sacramento from LA, it's about a 15, sometimes 20-minute drive to Yolo County, the courthouse there. If I have to go to Sacramento Juvenile Court from the airport, that's about 45 minutes away in an Uber. So Yolo County is actually closer to the airport if you're going to juvenile court than Sacramento's own juvenile court. Yeah, but they, I don't know. It's funny doing cases in different counties. There's a whole different attitude from county to county.
Yeah, there is.
It's really interesting. And it goes back to, the way that agency grew up. I read something one time about Los Angeles County when they were trying to make changes. And at a certain point in time, somebody opined you'd have to fire all administrators and middle administrators to get those ideas out of the agency. Because when you have people that have grown up with the system being just this way, that's the way that's going to be. Because that's the way they're training the new people coming up under them. A few years ago, I was invited to do a talk at, I think it was Cal State Long Beach, a university down here. And I was invited to speak to a group of undergraduate and graduate, people that were majoring in social work. And a lot of people in the room were getting ready to go to work for the local county CPS. And during the entire thing, I had to bite my tongue, because the ideals that they have are really great ideals. The problem is the real world implications when you go and you have to work for someone who, may or may not trying to be making money, may or may not have a power or control issue over some parent.
Yeah. So I wasn't allowed. I was told by the social worker that I couldn't go back to school because I took a break to take care of my daughter, and so it's they definitely got some control issues there.
Yeah.
With Yolo County, we've also gone to Board of Supervisor meetings, our group, and our group is completely intimidated by the agency. The agency has told, their workers, because Yolo County has done something new, because we've all been making a lot of noise at the Board of Supervisors meetings that, our group is a bunch of people that are just like nasty parents, but we're parents that have been traumatized by this agency. And going to board of supervisors meetings, they always push, county stuff to the side. We're like, hey, there's a lot of indecencies with what's going on. Like, please help us. And they're like, yeah, no, we can't talk about this, confidential matter. And they literally brush it off. So Yolo County was doing a listening session. And so we brought it up of like, these items are going on in this and this, and it's covering everything up, and it's power and control. And it's all the social workers are groomed to have bad practice in this county. This county is 100% bad practice. And how you were saying earlier about the money thing, I mean, they've made it a point in these listening sessions to say the head of the board of both directors for the agency have both mentioned Yolo County's broke. Okay, but you guys remove more children, almost as close to LA County. You guys have like 600, it's public information. You guys have over 600 children in care. Like, so what are all these parents doing that are awful? And
it must be the water. Must be the water up there.
Something. I mean, like, and it's like, I know personally people I grew up with, it's not the parents that use alcohol and drugs. It's the parents that are the non-offenders. Because I know plenty of people that have substance abuse issues that I went to school with that have their children and have never had these people knock on their door. And they are career social workers here. All of them are 30 years, 20 years, 15 years, and they have a hold on the system.
Have you ever looked up the public website where you can look up somebody's salary?
Yep, absolutely. I've sent it to the group, actually. They are very aware that there's a few people that make, $250,000 to $300,000 a year for Yolo County. Right, and it's sick. It's sick. And the social workers, too, you can look them up. And where the county, that if they came from a county before, what their salary was there.
When I first saw that website and I started looking up people,
it's awful.
I was shocked. I was like, oh, maybe I should have gone to work for the county, right?
Yeah. Well, Yolo County has also a recruiting system for new workers where they entice people that are in college, and they let you know that they'll let you finish your master's degree. They'll pay for it, but you have to be committed for at least 2 years. And I got told this at a supervised visitation center that I go to. And they said that if you break it early, you have to pay it all back if you leave the county. Right. So they just drive these people into the ground. Also, Yolo County social workers only get about 30 days of training before they're on their own. They get 30 days of ER and then they're done. They're cut loose.
They don't have monthly trainings, because most counties give their workers monthly trainings, like a half-day training or a full-day training.
No, I met with the two branch directors about a month ago about my case that just closed with my 9-month-old daughter. And I said, what's up with the routine bad practice? The social worker has been in all of my social workers have been in both of the cases. The case that started in March and the one that started in March of this year. And I'm like, why do I have the same workers? It's a conflict of interest. And they're like, oh, well, that's normal procedure. And I'm like, according to the law, it's not. Like, you're not supposed to do that.
Yeah, you know why?
Everything up.
It's money, and you have such a small county in terms of numbers, right?
Yep.
So you get caught in situations just like that. The best thing that you can do is to elect new county supervisors that are sensitive to the CPS issue, because CPS is an executive branch that there's no elected officials. Mm-hmm. They answer to elected officials, the county board of supervisors.
And we've brought it up to them, and they literally shut us all down. And
but you know why they shut you down? Because you don't have. They think you're right. They think you don't have any voting power. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know how many people are in Yolo County, but what if you do you know how many people are in Yolo?
It's like 150,000.
That's all?
No, it's more than that. It's like between 300,000 and 500,000, I think, if not a little bit less. I've looked because I did the percentage on the case per cases or something like that of how many kids are removed per child. And I tried to do all that research a while ago, but
I just looked it up. As of 2020, the population of Yolo County was 220,500. I just Googled it.
It's tiny.
Yeah, now that's small. LA County is like 10 million. Now, so you know how you get change? You get a group of maybe 50, 75,000 people, and you vote. You vote for your candidate. Now, I don't know if it's harder or easier to do this in LA or, YOLO, but the numbers are smaller. There was, when I was still doing my radio show on KBC, one of the shows right before me were two guys that were running in a campaign to recall Governor Newsom, right? And what I found fascinating about it was how they were organized. This was for the whole state. They were organized down to the neighborhood level. So the state was divided into counties. Each county had a captain, but underneath each captain in the county, there were cities. So each city had a captain. But under each city, there were neighborhoods, and each neighborhood had a captain. And they had places where you could go to sign the petition in each of these neighborhoods. They had a way that all of these people were signed up via email to give them information, give them voting suggestions, all of that. Now, I don't know if you're a Republican or a Democrat, it really doesn't matter, but California is a Democratic state. It's a blue state. They never said this to me. I just got the feeling that they knew that they couldn't win, right? Just the numbers weren't there. But they were going to give it one hell of a try. And they did. Because they actually got Governor Newsom put on the recall ballot. Like, that was almost impossible. I was betting $1 they would never be able to do that. But from sheer organization, they were able to do that. Then when it came down to the recall election, Newsom won in a landslide, but that was because of the numbers. But from the organization, oh my God, the organization was unbelievable. And then on top of that website and all of the email and communications they had a radio show. They had a radio show where they went statewide and tried to convince people to recall Governor Newsom.
We have
I mean,
somebody in our group currently who's been going to DC Department of California Social Services Department downtown, who's been talking to state officials about the corruption in Yolo County, and we've done protests and everything, and trying to put out there that we gotta change all of this.
Now you got to focus it though. Okay, there's a problem. Everybody knows it. We don't want to really recognize it, right? Because child abuse is so important to protect these kiddies, right? Even if we destroy their lives, God damn it, we're going to protect them. Focus on the voting. Get a candidate to run against Supervisor so-and-so. And your candidate is sensitive to the CPS issue. Everybody that's elected has their own top special interest. If you think about it, it could be, on a national level, could be the economy, could be immigration, could be healthcare, could be, whatever. But let's take it down to the county level. You got to get somebody that has a sensitivity to the CPS issue. And then I don't know how many county supervisors you have, but you're going to have to rinse and repeat. First you get your first supervisor, then you get your second supervisor. By that time, people are going to wake up and say, uh-oh, I don't want to be number 3 victim. I better become CPS sensitive. And they'll do something. But you got to keep going. You got to get your people on the board. Now, once on the board, they get to vote a new CPS director for your county. And that person presumably will be CPS sensitive and start to make change. Now, it's hard to make change. People have been doing it a certain way for 20 years. I don't care who my boss is. You think I'm going to change? It's not going to be easy. So start to make the change that way. Is it going to take time? Yep. It might not even be your lifetime, my dear. But you can start something that will continue on. Before I go, I don't know if either of you guys know Michelle Chan.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard that name?
Yep, we go to protest with her, and we are in her group with her. Yes.
Okay. That lady did something that nobody thought she could do.
Yep.
She actually caused real change. And I think it was not Alameda, but Contra Costa County. I forget. I think it was Contra Costa County. She actually made change. And you know how she did it? She got signatures to put recall of judges, of like one or two judges, on the ballot. Now, I've never really talked to her about exactly how she did that, but I can bet you it was a lot of work. A lot of work. Are we looking for pain and agony and work? No, we're not looking for that. But those people in that county, CPS had effed with the wrong lady. And she did something. That's what you got to do. Ask her what she did. Do it in your county. Recall the judge or judges that are making these, decisions that you don't believe in. That's the American way, right? That literally is the American way. I didn't even know this until Michelle Chan did it. You can get a judge placed on a recall. And from what I understand, it's not a lot of signatures. You just got to get them, verified, legitimate signatures, and put that person on the recall ballot. If you do that, do you realize what you're telling that person and other judges? And what you're telling is, look, we have power. We are the people. We vote. You have to be accountable. But that's our system. Are we just going to be, lemmings and let you lead us all over the cliff to our death? Because that's what's happening now. There's a whole certain human mentality about a group of people who are victims, right? Are they really going to do something? Probably not. And that has all to do with social interaction and dynamics and the herd mentality, all of that type of stuff. The people that you are in contact with, you guys have the power to make change. You do. But are you going to do it? I would ask Michelle, hey, Michelle, tell us exactly what you did over there in Contra Costa, and we're going to do it right now in YOLO. And then really do it. So enough of my ranting. I want to thank both of you, Ben and Charlotte, for being on the show today. I know, Charlotte, we didn't really get to your story because of little technical difficulties you were having. Do me a favor and call or email Grace at vincentwdavis.com, and she will get you back on the show. We can know more about your story. And, both you and Ben, I'm really interested in the political steps that you're taking. And Ben, I'm very intrigued about the legislative changes you're trying to work on.
It's
really.
I think it's with Michelle Chan, isn't it, Ben?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, it is.
That's great. Because she knows what she's doing.
Well, they think they just passed a law that either just went into effect. Her group, one of the members about child support and removing licenses and things like that for anyone that owes back child support. So they've been doing a lot of work. And we went to the protest for family court and for CPS court back in October, and it was really successful. So she's doing her group is California Family Rises, is doing meetings and legislative stuff I think it's every Monday.
Yeah. So one of them is to codify in art in KC, and the other one is I'm blanking on it right now. I have not had my coffee yet. I'm sorry.
That's right. That's right. We'll get you on the second round on the next show. But let me tell you something. Here, because I've given this a lot of thought over 30 years doing these kinds of cases. Here are two legislative changes that I think are most important, and they might be the hardest to make, but I think they're extremely important. Number one, you have to give a parent the right to a jury trial.
Absolutely.
You have to. There's so many things about a jury trial in our system of justice that it's too involved to even get into this discussion. Now, you have to give them that right. Now, the reason why we don't have that in California is the cost. It's incredibly expensive, right? But then there we go, talking about money.
Yeah,
right?
They spend tens of thousands of dollars on a single case already.
Right. So I think that's one of the fundamental things. You have to give them the right. They don't have to take it, but they have to give them the right to have jury trials. In the few states that do have jury trials or the right to jury trials, most people go without a jury trial. I don't know why that is. Who knows? Could be a guess, but you got to have that right. And here's the second most important thing I think is needed, because now technology has come so far and it's very cheap to do this. These social workers should be required to wear a body cam. Required. When they interview parents and children and witnesses.
I brought that up during the last meeting with Yolo County, their listening session, and I was like, I know that I've been interviewed by a social worker early in the morning. How do I know he or she doesn't go to see 10 other clients and they get my stuff mixed up with them? How do they
absolutely
make the differential? And the director was like, that doesn't happen. And I was like, right. I've watched them not take notes. So I know it happens. And I know my case is like, wait, what? That never happened.
I will tell you something. In your lifetime, social workers will never voluntarily make themselves wear body cams. Never.
They live on the hearsay law.
Right.
And I wish that could change.
So that ain't going to change. Not unless Ben and Michelle Chan make some legislative, changes. That ain't going to change. It's too easy for them to win these cases. You think people are focused on fairness to parents. When I went to law school, required reading my first year, and you guys, I should put this in an Amazon link or something and become an affiliate and make a commission off of it. There's a book that I think everyone should read. It's about this thick. So it's not a short book. It's called The Economic Analysis of the Law by a very famous lawyer and law professor I think his name is Joseph Posner. He's dead now. In California, there was another famous lawyer, Joseph Posner, I think, who was an employment attorney, but they're not the same guy. Okay? The Economic Analysis of the Law. When you read that, your eyes will be wide open and you will understand what's going on here. This is the most efficient way to manage people, because to run a country costs money. To protect children costs money. We got to have an orderly way to do it. And our measure of that is economically based. So people, if you go and try to make changes based upon just pure fairness, you're going to hit roadblocks, tough roadblocks. You tie it to a money argument, you show them how this will save money or make money. Oh yeah, we'll do that. That sounds like a great idea. You know, and you're going to have to come up with a better plan because they're making millions, billions, hundreds of millions of dollars on the system that is set up now. You and me, we're just cogs in the wheel, my friend. Just cogs in the wheel. Can we make change? Yeah, we can do it. The question becomes, and I tell Miss G this all the time, are we going to do it? Are we going to do it? So, you know, maybe the two of you can become the Michelle Chan of Yolo County. She already wrote the book. She already went through the pain and the suffering. She knows some of the things to do. It's clear. She was successful. You know, my mentors have always told me, oh, if they're doing it and they're winning, do what they're doing. Why try to reinvent the wheel? Do what's already been successful. Okay, folks, it's almost 10. We're way past it. I want to thank you again. I want to thank everybody for watching and listening. And we'll see you guys tomorrow at 9 a.m. Good night, or have a good day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.